on Gold FM.
A very good evening. This is Avinindra Som and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM. In your news headlines this evening, one-day pass for all vehicles to get fuel tomorrow. Colombo prices increase in March. Sri Lankan economy faces triple whammy. Same old external shocks the culprit once more. Russia's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs arrives in Sri Lanka. Cabinet signs off on rice imports. Also green lights paying fuel importers to keep prices down. Eateries increase prices effective midnight. Buy from us or get it from Hormuz. Trump's advice on where to get oil.
The top story on Gold FM.
Sri Lanka, still reeling from its previous economic collapse, faces a new triple crisis triggered by Middle Eastern instability. Professor Priyanka Dunasinghe, who we spoke to, identifies this as a surge in energy costs, a disruption in foreign remittances, and a critical shortage of fertilizer. This analysis explores the professor's warning that cost-reflective pricing, a cornerstone of the IMF's Extended Fund Facility or the EFF, may have hit its ceiling, risking a deindustrialization that could sink the economy back into contraction. Professor Dunasinghe opens by defining the specific external pressures currently threatening Sri Lanka's macroeconomic stability, moving beyond just oil to include agriculture and the balance of payments.
Basically, we can say we are right now facing a triple crisis, or the triple shock. We all are from the external sector. First one is that oil price and the oil shortage, the fuel price and the fuel shortage, and the second one is the impact on balance of payment with respect to in remittance, then the tourism income, then the export income, so on and so forth. And the third one is about the fertilizer, limited fertilizer supply prices, higher fertilizer prices, thereby having an impact on the agriculture. So broadly, triple shock from the external sector, which could impact number of areas.
The professor discusses the immediate risks to price stability, citing global research on how a closure of the Strait of Hormuz could cause a massive spike in domestic prices.
This could lead to an inflationary situation when if the current inflation remain around 2, possibility is high that we may experience higher inflation, partly because already one research institute called the Kiel Institute predicted a country like Sri Lanka may face around 15% price increase due to the closure of Hormuz Strait. So we can expect prices will go up, and then that case, price stability is at risk if the situation continues. And then the balance of payments, as you know, from one side our foreign exchange earnings come down, on the other hand we may have to spend more on fuel and more on some other essentials. So as a result of that, there is a pressure on the balance of payment and the exchange rate, in particular exchange rate, to depreciate. Then the next one is about the government's budget deficit, because the pressure on public expenditure increase in terms of giving subsidies to certain segments in the society, as well as economic downturn. The GDP reduction in fee will have an impact on our tax revenue collection as well. So macroeconomic stability in terms of price stability, then the balance of payment, the external sector stability and the fiscal sector stability all are at risk, and chances are high that Sri Lanka may find it really difficult to maintain it. And in addition, we can expect any contraction with respect to GDP will have a negative impact on the financial sector as well.
The professor argues that blindly following IMF mandates for cost-reflective pricing might now be counterproductive, as the middle class and small businesses can no longer absorb the increase.
the situation continue, then we will really face a difficulty because we may have to adjust prices again, cost reflective prices. But I think we can discuss that later. But now cost reflective price increase, I think cannot be applied any further to my understanding because it will disrupt the production activities in a significant manner, thereby having a serious issue because if the growth get affected, all the other macroeconomic indicators will be affected. So we need to keep that in mind to avoid far as possible an economic contraction. Still we to go with the cost reflective prices, but need to in addition to cost reflective prices, so if we have to increase prices again, I think along with such increase, we need to make sure that required fuel energy, is allocated to productive sectors in a sufficient manner. We have to have some other mechanism through which we guarantee the supply of fuel and energy to the productive sector in agriculture, industry and services. The reason why I argue in this manner is that one can increase the price of oil. In that context, the rich people will be able to consume oil and others will be limited their consumption in a big way.
Professor Dunu Singh explains the vicious cycle where energy costs and fertilizer shortages lead to small-scale farmers abandoning their land.
Most of our farmers are small holders or the small scale farmers. They find it very difficult to cover up their cost during the planting time. So that now this time it will be really difficult given all other prices have gone up. Energy prices have gone up. So this situation could certainly lead to a higher food prices, and higher food prices mean that not just the higher food prices but also the limited supply. So when you have higher food prices with the limited supply, then there will be a pressure on food importation as well. Already I think Sri Lanka is importing rice, as I saw in media. As it started importing rice, as I saw in the media, we will have to continue it further due to the cyclone related impact. The agriculture activities were impacted, and this time agriculture activities are impacted due to the higher cost of production. How to basically make sure that farmers engage in farming activities the way that they did in the last year? We need to guarantee that by providing them fertilizer and fuel at a reasonable cost. Otherwise what happens is small farmers, they simply give it up. As happen as a result of transport cost, they cannot sell their product at say Dambullo, Anuradhapura, Nuwara at the same price that they sold earlier. Now they have to sell at a lower price and the consumer have to pay higher price. All the middle is due to the transport cost. Now because of that, income of the farmers have come down.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
In your local news, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the importation of up to 1,040 metric tons of Ponni Samba and milk Ponni Samba to prevent a projected domestic shortage in May 2026. These varieties will serve as substitutes for local Samba and Kiri Samba stocks. Officials mandated that all imports must conclude between the 1st of April and the 30th of April, with shipments arriving at Sri Lankan ports by the 31st of May. The government waived the requirement of import control licenses for this specific procurement to expedite the process. The Cabinet also approved to calculate the payment of fuel allowances to ministers, MPs and government officials based on the fuel prices that existed on the 1st of March. Other allowances calculated on the basis of fuel prices will also remain fixed at the rates prevalent on that same date. A new subsidy scheme launched by the Cabinet provides up to 20 rupees per litre for octane 92 petrol and 100 rupees per litre for auto diesel to fuel importers. These payments trigger if the landing cost of these fuels exceed the current domestic market price. Effective from the 22nd of March, the policy aims to insulate consumers from global price spikes and maintain price stability for the most widely used fuel types across the island. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced that all vehicles, regardless of odd or even ending license plate numbers, can obtain fuel tomorrow. Managing Director Mayuranethy Kumarage stated that decision stems from both today and tomorrow falling on odd dates. The All Island Canteen and Restaurant Owners Association increased the price of a lunch packet and kottu by 30 rupees effective midnight today. Short eats rose by 10 rupees while milk tea and plain tea increased by 5 rupees following their latest electricity tariff hike. Association President Harshana Rukshan noted this is the second price hike in less than 3 weeks, following a gas price increase on the 12th. Meanwhile, the Essential Food Importers and Traders Association requested the public to refrain from panic buying or hoarding goods ahead of the upcoming festival season. Secretary P. Subramaniam confirmed the adequate stocks of essential items remain available in the market. The assurance comes as the Commissioner General of Essential Services, Prabhat Chandra Kirti, issued new energy management guidelines too, and officials prepared for a scheduled gas price revision tomorrow. Headline inflation in Colombo picked up in March to 2.2% from February's 1.6%. Data released today shows that on a monthly basis the index rose by 0.25%, which effectively means the typical urban market base now costs an extra 452 rupees. Non-food items are the primary cause for the wallets feeling lighter, with inflation in this group jumping to 2.9% from last month's 2.3%. Meanwhile, food inflation came in at 0.7%, though even that is a rise from the 0.2% seen in February. Transport costs led the charge in the non-food sector with a 0.28% increase, fueled by petrol and diesel prices jumping 5% and 6% respectively. Miscellaneous services also saw a 0.11% rise, mostly due to Agrahara insurance premiums. The Government Medical Officers Association launched a 24-hour symbolic strike at 8 am today to protest the alleged political targeting of doctors through recent transfers. Dr. Nalinda Jayathish, the Minister of Health, confirmed during the Cabinet press briefing today that the government will not alter its current transfer system. The Negombo High Court ordered the release of the 2 sons of former Minister Johnston Fernando and 2 other suspects on bail today. The court, however, rejected the bail application for former minister who remains in custody for the alleged misappropriation of state property and funds involving Sothos vehicles. The Supreme Court ruled today that the Colombo Municipal Council and the Colonnava Urban Council violated the fundamental rights of citizens through the unlawful disposal of waste at the Meethotamulla site. The court was responding to a fundamental rights petition filed by Attorney at Law Nuwan Bopage and several local residents regarding the Pothuwil Kumbara land. Justice Yasantha Kodagoda stated that the Colombo Municipal Council's actions in dumping city waste at the site led to the catastrophic collapse of the garbage mound in 2017.
Now for some news in brief.
Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Andrei Rudenko arrived in the country today for high-level diplomatic discussions.
The business news on Gold FM.
The all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange declined 26.06 points to close at 21,066.18 points. The S&P SL 20 index also declined 4.86 points to close at 5,904.10 points. Total market turnover was 3.6 billion rupees. Brent crude prices surged to $117 and 5 cents a barrel, marking a 4.19% increase. West Texas Intermediate crude followed the upward trend, reaching $103.
International news on Gold FM.
The US President labels France very unhelpful and tells the United Kingdom to, quote, go get your own oil, as the conflict with Iran enters a volatile new phase. The President further suggested that nations facing fuel shortages due to the Strait of Hormuz blockade should, quote, build up some delayed courage and take oil by force, stating that the United States will no longer assist those who did not join the, quote, decapitation of Iran. Air defense systems in the UAE and Saudi Arabia are currently engaging in a wave of Iranian strikes with missiles and drones, with explosions being reported across Dubai. New images confirm significant damage to the Kuwaiti-flagged tanker Al Salmi, which was struck by an Iranian drone while carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil destined for China. Although the resulting fire was extinguished without an oil spill or crew fatalities, the incident has intensified concerns over global energy security. Over in London, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is chairing an emergency COBRA meeting to address the severe economic fallout and the ongoing maritime blockade.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
The European Broadcasting Union confirms Bangkok, Thailand will host the inaugural Eurovision Song Contest Asia on the 14th of November 2026.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Pakistan international Fakhar Zaman receives a 2-match suspension in the Pakistan Super League after being found guilty of ball tampering. The 35-year-old faced charges from the Pakistan Cricket Board following a match between Lahore Qalandars and Karachi Kings. And that's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates. This is